Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode. This is going to be a Patreon exclusive, so you're not going to be able to listen to this unless you're willing to pay $2 a month, which is very cheap. And TBH, we could raise that in the future, so you should lock that price in because $2 is very low. And this week, we're going to be talking about something that I actually sort of came up with in response to something our friend Charlie had asked us about on Discord. He was looking for research and articles on male sexual jealousy, which made me think about how we could incorporate this into an episode. I came up with the idea for male desire in part because I think the underpinning experience of gay men is yearning. And that's what's going to get covered in the second half of the episode on gay male desire. But Joseph and Charlie have really led the charge with the first half, which is on straight male desire.
Yeah, it just feels like I don't know, a fun, kind of looser, definitely more like culturally based episode as opposed to more like specific ones we've done recently. We get to do a little bit of like, I guess, dating discourse and stuff, wade into that. I don't think we'll be annoying on it or anything, but I think we have some like interesting angles to view it from. And then we have our guest Charlie here. So Charlie's a filmmaker. Yeah, I'll start asking you some questions. So yeah, tell us a bit about like the filmmaking work you do, and then if you want to talk about your day job, you can.
Yeah, so I'm a writer, producer, director, filmmaker, sometimes cinematographer, and photographer as well. So I've made 4 short films now, and I am currently working on what will be my first feature film. So it'll be about hopefully like an hour 20 minutes, an hour 30 minutes maybe. So I'm writing that. I've been writing it for the past few months, since about March. I'm on my 3rd draft, and this is kind of like the best part of the process is when you're not thinking about budget. Yeah. You know, your director, producer hat is kind of off, and you're just writing and having fun and exploring concepts. So my previous film was Wings. It came out last year. It's about 28 minutes long. It was about 10 or 15 people total on the crew. I made it my senior year of college, and it's definitely like the biggest thing that I've made so far. There were, visual effects, and we had a asteroid come in from the sky and crash down, and it looked really great. It looked very cinematic, and
that's available on YouTube, right?
Yeah, I was going to
ask
next.
So we'll link that.
Distribution things.
So definitely check that out. I think it's really cool. It's kind of like subverting like Marvel movies. That's so kind of pervasive in the culture right now, or at the time it was, because this was 2020, 2021. And it's kind of an exploration of like the psychological realism behind like what would actually happen if like a 16-year-old got superpowers, right? Because like Spider-Man is like this 16-year-old kid, and when he gets superpowers, people expect him to like go and fight crime. But it's really looking at like what would actually happen if a 16-year-old had superpowers. They would probably feel alienated and scared and alone, and so that's kind of what Wings is about.
I like that. I don't know. I think I'd mentioned on the podcast before, it wasn't a whole Amazon show. I always liked the Invincible series of comics, because it felt like a very interesting kind of ask on that question of like, oh, what would superheroes actually be like? And then there's, I think the more famous component to that is like the show The Boys. It's like, oh, what if superheroes were evil? And that seems like less nuanced and less interesting to me. But I want to know, like, what was the angle you came at filmmaking from first? Was it from a writing angle or from what?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I got into filmmaking. I knew I wanted to be a filmmaker at a really young age. Like when I was like, 8 or 9, like I knew I wanted to, maybe not a filmmaker, but a storyteller. I've always been a writer. My mom's a writer as well. She's an author. She's written 4 or 5 books now. I was raised to be a creative. I don't think she like wanted to like raise a creative person, but she definitely like really nurtured that part of me. And my parents have always been so supportive of my creative endeavors and my filmmaking and stuff. They've never been like, oh, are you going to get a real job or whatever. I feel like a lot of artistic people kind of have to.
The rite of passage
have
is
to
like
deal with that,
disapproving parents.
Yeah. So they've always been very, very supportive of me. And, when I was a kid, like I remember making like, camcorder movies on like VHS tapes and stuff.
That's always the classic thing they say.
Right,
like, she was always putting on shows for us in the living room. Like, and that kid was Britney Spears. It's always that. Same thing with filmmaking.
Yeah. So then in college, I really kind of dedicated myself to the arts and being a creative. And senior year was when I really like had this moment where I read The Power of Myth by Joseph Campbell. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with his work, but basically a book about like comparative theology. talking about the different religions and how all religions